This episode of the Wedding Film School Show is brought to you by MusicBed, the best music licensing platform for wedding filmmakers. Head over to themusicbed.com and enter our code WFS on checkout to get a free month on your annual wedding subscription. Now, on to the show.
We got Eugene and Andrea from The Drakes.
In our films, the people in our films, they look like they're on tune with what's going on, with the experience.
People don't realize how hard it is to help normal people feel comfortable enough to look like models.
Right.
That's why we cannot wait the day of the wedding for them just to break that barrier. So we have to do that work before.
So what would your timeline be that might be different than maybe the films they're making?
Partnership, partnership, partnership. I don't know who made the rule of the videographers following the photographer, but we come from that world too. Like, we started as photographers. So we know what's important that day. So if you can partner with that photographer to make sure that both of you can get the best out of the experience, it would only benefit.
Hey guys, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. I am excited because I have some guests in studio, which is a rare treat. People who I would consider friends and people who I would also say I respect your work a lot, and I have the Drakes. So how you guys doing? We got Eugene and Andrea from the Drakes.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, what brings you guys to Boston?
We're shooting a wedding in Ipswich. Did I say it right?
No.
Okay.
Ipswich.
Ipswich.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a
Nice.
sandwich.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. It makes sense.
But yeah, beautiful place, Crane
Yes,
State.
Crane State. Oh my God. It was an amazing experience. So yeah, that's why we're here in Massachusetts.
Yeah. So that you were shooting up there, that place has crazy timelines. Did you guys like?
Yeah.
Every time I shoot
I
there,
know.
I'm like, I could shoot so much cooler stuff.
I know.
I know.
But they're so strict with the like starting time, and we're like almost at the door, like waiting for 3:30 to just come
Get
in.
there.
Mm-hmm. So that brings to mind, if you haven't seen the Drake's work, they do non-traditional, I would say, for the most part, wedding films. Obviously, there's some traditional elements. You know, it's still love stories. It's still live events. But I think when you look at the editing and all this stuff, you go check it out because they're doing a lot of really interesting stuff. And I know if you're out there and you want to kind of experiment a little, push the boundaries a little bit, I think the Drakes are great people to be inspired by. You know, I know you guys. I know some of your story. I think it'd be really interesting for you guys to talk a little bit about, you know, because nobody is who they are today. Like, that's not who you are. It's not what made you who you are. We're like the sum of all our choices and our influences. And so you guys have a background as immigrants. I'd love to hear a little bit about your story about like what led you into wedding filmmaking, but also what led you as immigrants and maybe kind of how that's affected your filmmaking.
It's so interesting that you say that because all of our experiences are like, I like to think about them as layers. So no matter where your background is, it will always add that layer that makes you very special and unique. So my background is in psychology, education, and business, which is completely unrelated things if you put them in one place, but it makes the Drake's experience a little bit more special.
Yeah, and my background is so my degree is in graphic design, and I have a background in theater as an actor and assistant director. So I grew up also watching, like I said earlier, MTV for hours, just like watching music videos. I was just so intrigued by the interaction of the main characters with the camera, and being able to, I don't know, I feel like you said earlier, we are the compound of things and experiences, and in my case, I think that built a really strong foundation of why I do the things I do right now, and trying to break that barrier between camera and person has been a very important aspect in my work. Because in theater, you work with the fourth wall. It's like the guests or like the people in front of you. It's that fourth wall, and I try to break that and make the audience kind of like part of the experience, And it's funny because a great friend and planner once said that in our films, people like she noticed that the people in our films, they look like they're on tune with what's going on with the experience. It's
Yes.
not like something separated from,
They're part of the film,
they're part of
and knowingly so.
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think that's an important distinction, I think, to make too, because not every filmmaker can do that. Not every wedding or couple wants to do that. And so that's why I think it's so important that you guys have such a distinctive, almost like, I remember hearing a salesperson talking about, like, you want to attract, but you also want to repel. Like, you want people to look at your work and go, like, I don't want to do that.
Yes.
And your work is like, stands out as like, if someone's hiring you, they're kind of bought in,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it took us some time to realize and accept that, because we moved here like 7-8 years ago, kind of.
Did you make wedding films?
Yes.
You guys from Colombia, right?
Venezuela.
She's
I'm
from Colombia.
He's from
Okay.
Venezuela.
Yeah.
That's right. So,
But we met in Venezuela, and yes, we were working already in the wedding industry over there. We were kind of like doing a similar style. We actually started with post-wedding sessions before filming weddings. Like, I started with photography, but one of the things that I started with was creating concepts after the wedding was done. Like, my first or the session that I think that put us on like in the map in Venezuela was a post-wedding session. I never shot that wedding, but I did the post-wedding of
it was
a
like
friend.
a trash address or something.
A trash
Right.
dress. Exactly.
It was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like a real long
So it was like-
if you don't know, that was a big trend at one point. Now-
Yes. So
now
yeah.
it's like a $20,000 dress. They're not going to trash it.
Yeah, exactly. So we created a concept based on the couple's style and all that, and we found out that the bride was a good friend of a magazine editor that decided to publish the photos in the cover of the magazine, and those are those magazines that you put on the newspapers every Sunday. So everybody has access to those magazines. So after that, it was just like calls and calls after that, and so I started like offering that trash the dress session as part of our wedding package, just because I wanted to push it. And then slowly I started just like, okay, offering as an add-on, and then I started just doing photos. Wedding content. But I still wanted to like push that during the wedding coverage.
And a little bit of like context. In here, it was a trend. People wanted to do that. Over there, it was more traditional. So the disruptive element has always been part of our work.
And the fact that we come from, the Latin America wedding industry where they don't work with timelines.
No.
It's
Yes.
a different.
I go to Latin American Christmases, and
Well,
It
You know how can you
it
go.
ends up with a breakfast and maybe a lunch. So
yeah.
Uh,
Ceremonies starting at 9 p.m., serving like soup or breakfast at 6 a.m., and you're still like
partying, shooting.
I'm like,
You never know when it's gonna end. So the flexibility part of our work is just founded in where we started working on.
Right,
you
right.
know.
yeah,
Exactly.
I find like whatever you start doing something, like wherever your start is, like it's hard to kind of extricate yourself from that.
Yes.
Like it's like, well, this is what I know how to do. This is
right?
Yeah. Right.
this is what I
Exactly.
Like, the only way I've contextualized it. Like I'm at the point now, like I was telling someone the other day, like if I show up at a wedding without a wedding planner, I don't know what even to do anymore.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
like-
That happens.
and we feel like that now that we have all these years filming weddings in the States, that we got into this more like a comfortable space of, okay, working with a timeline and all that. But then, like I said at the beginning, it took us some time to go back to basics.
Yeah, like how do you take
Yes.
what you know how to do and implant it into someone else's system, which isn't that the immigrant
Yes.
experience, like
Yeah.
in general?
In general.
You're
It's
right.
like- It's like, how do I take what I do and it actually makes everything better?
Yeah.
Like when more perspectives are, I would always say, I remember years ago when Harper's List came out and Alex and Whitney from Skull to a Time hit the list, it's the first time I'd seen, no offense to anyone else on the list, by the way, they're great filmmakers, but let's be all honest, nobody is really like the safest. It's the safest work ever. That's what's rewarded by the wedding industry. Safety. And finally I saw someone who's like doing something interesting,
Right.
who got acknowledged. And I'm wondering, like, and I see it with your work too, and a lot of people, like, do you guys find that the industry is now like more open and more planners and more like people who are kind of like kingmakers are more open to something a little more edgy, a little more interesting, a little less cookie cutter?
Here is what I can say about this. Like, you have to have a foundation of trust with the planner, with the couple, for them to be on board and knowing that everything is going to be okay, with a kind of different approach. Because humans, we don't like uncertainty. We like things that are like measurable, predictable, and that everything is going to be the way you planned it, especially in a event with no actors. Like, it's just what it is, the day of the wedding, right? So you have to really work on that relationship so that they trust you to give you the time that you need to build a cohesive experience and build like a really good storytelling. So
Yeah.
it goes
It
back
starts
to that.
way before we click with the camera. You know, we started like creating systems that can lead us to have these type of expectations with the couples.
Well, why don't we get specific then?
Okay.
Because I think this is like, we're kind of talking around it. I'm basically expecting you to go watch a film and then identify what's unique about it. So a normal wedding filmmaker, you know, I would maybe not normal, typical. They're showing up, they're shooting a little bit of getting ready, and they're kind of just shadowing the photographer all day. Sometimes you have to do that, but yeah, that's pretty much the industry standard. And they're not making any waves. And then whatever time is given to them is what they're taking. But most of their content, they're getting sniper style. And it's available. It's documentary style coverage.
Yeah.
With a big focus. I always tell people our number one focus is event coverage. If you think you're doing anything else, you're kind of messing up. Like you want to get that fancy stuff too, but you gotta like cover the ceremony correctly. You gotta cover the toast. You gotta cover the dances. And so there are a lot of like, while the photographer's doing stuff, we're setting stuff up and getting, and then the day's over, right? And that's kind of a normal event. What would you guys say? Maybe not at every wedding, but ideal the Drake's experience is that's maybe different than maybe another, like a typical wedding.
Okay, I will start months before the wedding. Like the moment we get an inquiry.
Yeah.
Is that am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly right.
Okay. We have a questionnaire which is out of the ordinary. So the person who is booking us already knows that we're not just a thing to check. So they
have
say,
to go through this questionnaire that has a bunch of personal questions, and that's our way to filter already. You know, if you're willing to spend the time to fill that out, we're on board with you. You know, if not, it's fine.
I would say same with us. We don't care about that stuff. But I would say like everything, the first mistake I think a lot of filmmakers are making is I think they over curate their clients in marketing and under curate their clients in sales.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And so once you're getting into that, they're filling out this form with a bunch of personal questions. You get on the phone with you guys. I'm assuming you're kind of further curating that experience on the console too.
Yes.
Right?
And the reason we have the privilege to do that is because we have already 12 years of work. So it didn't just happen. Like it was a very slow process that we had to be very intentional with our niche.
So something I wanted to touch base here is that we moved to the States 8 years ago, and we kind of had to start not over again, but it was a new beginning, you know. So we had to, like, all the experiences we had and all the knowledge in wedding films or photography, we had to like put it a little bit on the side the disruptive part just to be safe while we were like getting known in the industry.
Yeah.
You know, we were like nobody. You know,
Well, everybody, I think one of the biggest mistakes so many people make is they see someone like you or Alex, and like the amount of film critiques I do on where I'm like, you clearly just watched Sculpting with Time. This wedding was in a bar. It's not the vibe. There's nothing wrong with like the way you shot it, but the way you edited it, the way you're trying to portray yourself brand wise, like it doesn't ring as authentic. You're watching this wedding and it's like dun 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 dun, dun and it's like just zoom in on this bar.
Yeah.
And I think like every really good filmmaker goes like, how do I take something that feels authentic but also put my twist on it?
right.
Right.
Right. And I'm sure you guys had to do
You gotta
that
be
for
realistic
years.
too, you know. It's not like and yeah, exactly. That took us years to kind of like get you know, plant the seed, you know, and you just have to water it, you know, little by little, and then it was you know, the repetition phase where you just have to do the work, and then slowly you start to like show your real
You almost got to get lucky too. You got to like find like
I
the
could,
In a
right
way.
I could
couple.
say I know where stuff started to like make a turn. You know, I had this wedding that we shot in Punta Cana in 2018 in Dominican Republic. It was a friend of mine, so I felt I had the opportunity to twist it a little bit. And we asked her, and they were like super on board with the idea. And there started to see things, you know, taking a different turn. And then after that, it was just like, okay, now that I know it's welcomed, or like it not like welcome, but
There are
if
some people interested in that
Yes,
kind
You
of.
Yes.
created demand for what you wanted, but
Right.
you weren't stupid leading up to it. And I think a lot of people
Yeah.
are
Right.
very stupid with how they like come into an industry. They're like, we hate wedding films and we don't like normal weddings, and these are what like your couples are boring, and your like planners and the industry picks up on that when you disdain them. And
Right.
like, and they show up and they try to make this big scene, and I'm like, who are you? Like, you gotta like play nice for a little bit, find a way to like, because like nobody wants to give you opportunities when your entire attitude is that what they're doing is stupid.
yes.
or
and
that,
boring.
or from a place of entitlement. You know, like you want to be respectful not only of the process that is taking you to get to do these things. Like I see it as a privilege to get to do things a little bit different, and out of respect with all the people that are working on that special day. It's not really about you.
No.
Like you are just facilitating things to showcase like a story or make a more like an illusion of how we got there, but it's still we're working with real events. We wouldn't portray anything that is not authentic to the couple or that is not real.
So let's talk about some things that you guys like. You're getting to the wedding day, right? I went over that timeline. How would be a Drake's experience to get the kind of, if you don't know their work, I'll just describe it a little bit the way I see it as an outsider. Lots of eye contact from the couples. I think that's intentional.
Super intentional.
Lots of quick cuts, so lots of handheld coverage. I think Eugene seems like he's on speed when he's filming the weddings because he's all over the place. I don't know how he gets all the angles, but there's lots of handheld coverage, lots of angles, and then typically there seems to be a concept and some kind of signature session involved in the shoot, mixed in with more traditional coverage, shot maybe a little edgier, but in general, just kind of traditional wedding coverage. And it kind of all comes together to make this unique.
Amazing sandwich.
Plus the edit. The edit is always
Right,
a
of course.
lot. The edit is a big part of it.
Yeah,
So,
it is.
so that timeline, for someone who's wanting to make stuff like this, what would your timeline be that might be different than maybe, and it could have before the day or after the day, how would yours come together differently than maybe the films they're making?
Partnership.
And
Like if
communication.
you can, I don't know who made the rule of the videographers following the photographer, but we come from that world too. Like we started as photographers, so we know what's important that day. So if you can partner with that photographer to make sure that both of you can get the best out of the experience, it would only benefit the couple.
How much time would you guys need the day of to get some of this extra content? Are you doing special shoots the day of? Are you doing...
Oh,
So we can put as an example the wedding we just shot at Crane State this weekend. We had only 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah, to create the concept kind of thing, and we already had the ideas written.
And the couple was aware, and the photographer was aware. So we budget the time. Like we need 20 minutes to do
Yeah.
this.
outside of the photo session?
Yeah.
outside of the photo session.
Yeah.
And during those 20 minutes, the photographers can still get content. You know, I mean, they're free to create with us, and I always encourage the people I work with to kind of have their input. You know, oh, this will look nice this way. You know, because we're not working with models or actors. This is just real people.
If you've never done commercial work and you've worked with models, I'm telling you, it's so much easier.
Exactly.
It's so much easier. Like every time I do a styled shoot with a really expensive model, boo,
Oh,
that's when you're just we did one and it got picked up by Ramona Cavazza,
oh, nice.
and
How much time did it take?
like 4 hours. It was nothing.
Okay.
But the model was a professional.
yeah.
And so a lot of times people think like, oh wow, you're such a good filmmaker. I'm like, she's a beautiful woman who knows how to wear that dress.
And both things are true.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can do a good job, but like if you can, people don't realize how hard it is to help normal people feel comfortable enough to look like models.
Right.
That's why we cannot wait the day of the wedding for them just to break that barrier. So we have to do that work before.
So you're doing
managing
mostly
of the
doing
emotionals.
sessions ahead of time?
Not really. Like sometimes we just have the day of the wedding, especially if
but
it's a
we
destination.
talk about the conversations.
The conversation. So our conversations with the couple before the wedding, or when they're even before booking us, it takes about an hour and a half, just talking about life, love, things that really matter to them. So when we have those meaningful conversations the day of the wedding, it just flows.
We're not just a random guy with a camera, you know, filming and being, you know, sometimes obtrusive, you know, because we're a presence, you know.
In some parts, and there are
Yeah,
others
of
where
course.
we are just completely invisible, as
Right.
it should be. But in the opportunities where we have, we can direct a little bit
You
more.
can't
Yeah.
if you've never worked with people and you're listening, you've never worked with the subject in the right way. What makes really good photographers special is that they can, what is her name? She had the master class and she's like, a lot of people think my job is to make you comfortable, but I don't think that's my job. My job is that's not my photographer's job. My job is almost to make them uncomfortable. But you need relationships with that person
Yeah.
to push
Yeah.
them.
Annie Leibovitz?
Yes, yeah. Annie Leibovitz
Yes.
talked about that. And I think that's how a portrait photographer thinks.
Yeah.
Right.
Is they're trying to now a lot of filmmakers, I think in the States, most filmmakers are nerds. We come out of AV clubs. We're gear centered. We have never worked with any subjects. We get into weddings because we're the only guys who know how to use the equipment. Photographer's journey is always portraits first. And so before they get into weddings, they've typically worked with awkward senior photos, family photos, the most challenging subjects.
People
Children,
focus.
Yeah.
dogs, whatever it is. They've had to work with people. And I think it's to our detriment as filmmakers that we don't have a portrait outlet. Like that we're not able to cut our teeth posing people.
Right.
Working with people, spin like that,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
the language, how to move your hand up someone's arm,
Right,
so
right.
they don't go like
makes
this.
sense.
Yeah.
You
Right.
need to know how to direct people, and so I think
Yeah.
that's really, really interesting. You guys bring that up because I'm watching the films and I'm like, this is a person with a fashion background who has an energy. Like I know some people put music on. They're trying to bring some
Yeah,
vibe
yeah.
to the room.
Yeah.
Breaking the ice a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. You got so what would you say to someone? And I think just in general with your work and people who are doing stuff like that, what would you say to someone who's maybe not as comfortable connecting with people? Like, how would you encourage them to maybe grow in that area? Like, if they're maybe more of an introvert, or they don't feel like they have the language, or is that a limit? Should they try to like maybe work on another part of their craft, or do you think there's ways that they can actually grow in that?
Well, it depends. Obviously, I'm thinking about a person who wants to grow in that area.
Yeah.
And we did recently an exercise of putting ourselves in a very uncomfortable situation, something that we wouldn't expect us to do. So we went on a shoot just to experience a little bit what our couples experience with us, which is like a very vulnerable day. They don't know what to expect. There are lots of emotions going on. And we just got a photo shoot from us, of us. And it was very provocative, in a very vulnerable place, but it was incredible for us to build better relationships. And we already have like empathy for our couples, but it's like one step further because that's what they're feeling that day, you know? So I'll say put yourself in a situation where you can be in the other side of the camera. And there are obviously like techniques of photo posing and things that you can learn. But experiencing yourself, like, what is the style that I want to
I will say
build,
that's
you know?
one thing that you should start with. It's what's your intention, you know? What's your idea? Are you trying to just recreate something you've seen, or are you trying to like build your own style in a way, you know, because we are the mixture of all the things we've seen, you know, everything's already created.
I'm almost like, I don't believe in new ideas.
Right, exactly.
I'm always like, everyone's just like, your spin on the idea will end up becoming new just because you did it.
Yeah,
But in the end of the day, we're just taking inspiration.
Exactly. And like the book, Still Like an Artist, you know, and it starts like that, you know, study, fill your mind with things you want to see, you know.
Or things that inspire you, like movies.
Yeah, movies.
Angles,
like we watch
colors.
just documentaries or music videos just to get inspiration of framing, color, angles, whatever.
I don't know any great wedding filmmakers whose primary influence is wedding films. I do think,
and that's great.
I do think you should be aware of wedding films. I think that's a stupid thing people say is, I don't watch any wedding films. Like, that's dumb. Why?
No, you have
You
to.
should.
Yeah,
You should
of
watch.
course.
You should be familiar with what's going on.
Yeah.
Just as a business person, you need to know
Right.
what's selling and not selling. And, you know, what your competition's doing.
Yeah.
But, like, you keep talking about like music videos. Like, you're not talking about wedding films. Like me, like I grew up like watching Eraserhead and like avant-garde like horror movies and like I like weird stuff. Now I have not found a way to implement that.
But you kind of do. I mean, I see, you know, the moody side, the mystery, you know, in some of the shots and the framing.
Well, what I'll tell you is this. One of the things people say to us, if you watch our films, most people with Stop Go Love would be like, oh, these are just normal wedding films. But in our industry, people go, oh, you're the fun ones. Like, we're not edgy, we're fun. It's approachable. It's like the way that normal people have fun, like at their house. Like, yeah, we're having fun. Not like we're out experiencing the world. We're not world travelers. We're fun.
Right.
We're not taking ourselves too seriously. It's not overly unnaturally romantic to the couple. It resonates with normal people who want to be perceived as having a romantic date but a little bit fun. That comes from me growing up playing in pop punk bands, like having a fun, like just making Monty Python skits. That was like my first video experiences were making skits.
Yeah.
That's
Silly
awesome.
videos. I would rent time at the local the TV station in town, and we would just make shows, like SNL, like fake silly
awesome.
shows. And I knew like I just don't naturally take anything seriously.
Yeah.
I'm just not a serious person. And we didn't intentionally go to make that wedding film. It just is the film that we naturally made by just doing what we think is cool. And so I always tell people, it's like, maybe you're not, I don't think you should make the goal to be the Drakes. It's cool to be inspired by the Drakes, and maybe you can.
Yeah.
Like, if you have the a lot of the personal makeup and the mentality of the Drakes. Like most of the stuff you guys are talking about, I'm like, I don't care about that. Like, I would never want to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I
that's
don't
okay.
want to.
But
Yeah,
that's
it is.
okay.
I'm not going to. I want to show up and just shoot a wedding and then not have to talk to the couple.
Yeah,
That's what I want to do.
that's fine.
And that works.
And a lot of people do that, but you're not going to make that film that you made.
Exactly. The thing is that we try to go beyond just the clicking with the camera. You know, we first develop, you know, the relationship with the couple. We build the trust and of course like putting the expectations and all that. But we come from believing in, and this sounds super cheesy and all that, but we do believe like love is gonna save the world, like in a way. Like we're in one of the most emotional and important days in their lives, you know.
would agree.
And we take it seriously, but not too seriously. You know, it's like it's a serious job, but don't take it seriously. But also it's the respect and the trust. Like when you see these people, like we see this as this film or photo gallery. Like when you see it 10 years from now, 20 years from
It's
now,
legacy art.
it's legacy.
It's
You
legacy.
know,
And most of the time, it will be the only piece of art that a couple is going to buy.
I always say that. I always say,
yeah,
like, it doesn't matter what film you're making, everyone still has the same responsibility, which is this person. Most people don't love art. They like art. They like art more than they think they do, but they don't go like, I like art. Like most of us love art.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like we love some kind of art and we're passionate about it. That's why we do it for a living. Our couples are not, mostly. Some are, but mostly many of them are like, oh, you know, like I'm going to buy this wedding film. They don't think I'm buying this piece of art, but they are. And it's probably the most, maybe their photos are more expensive. Maybe they have portraits on the wall, but probably not. It's probably the most expensive investment in art they're ever going to make in their entire life.
Yes.
And you know, I hear this all the time. People are like, I want to get out of weddings. I want to make more significant art. I'm like, so you want to make a bunch of corporate schlop that people are going to throw away? Like, I worked enough corporate stuff to know that like it's not valuable to anyone.
Right.
The marketing
Right.
department doesn't care about what I make.
yeah.
No,
It's not
exactly.
important. It's not moving people. It's not special.
This is your
it's not
opportunity,
meaningful.
actually.
Yeah.
Weddings are meaningful.
Yes.
Like this, it's like if you're an artist, I was like that's like authentic, pure
Yes.
art. Is like you're making something that's so valuable to
Yeah.
someone, just one person, and that's enough for me.
Exactly, and we see this as it's our playground. You know, like we have to cover the basics. You know, the speeches, the vows, and all that. But I see this as an opportunity to speak my truth, our experiences in a shot. You know, just like putting ourselves in the situation and making just things happen out of thin air. Is
That's also fun.
Yeah.
It's like jazz.
right.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
Like
It is.
that's why I think about wedding films is like because I actually correct myself too. Is like I do like talking to the couples, and I actually know like when we do Huxley film, like I won't work with a couple that won't do the consultations
Okay. Yeah.
because you can't make that product.
Because you have different brands, you know, but with that brand you have
You
to.
can't do. I don't think you can do great intimate portrait sessions without conversations.
Yes.
You
Right.
can make a great wedding film,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you can't make a certain type of wedding film without certain relationships. I'm happy to get paid to make either. That's all I'm saying.
And-
like, it doesn't
yeah.
ruin my creative soul to show up and just shoot a
Yeah.
gig and like walk away. But I know it's like if I'm doing like if I have to do 15 weddings that are to do like 5 weddings that are awesome, I'm cool with that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's balance. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes we have to do that. And all this sounds very romantic, but when we talk about business, I can assure you that hour and a half we're talking to the couple is on that spreadsheet when we calculate our
Nice
costs.
spreadsheets.
You know, so it doesn't mean that one thing has to
Yes.
take over the other.
Right.
It's just a balance.
Well, and a lot of people, I think this is a good little pivot because knowing you a little bit, knowing him pretty well, there's obviously a balance between you two, which
You
is
can tell.
great.
yeah.
I have a business partner as well sometimes you got to be your own business partner, though, if you're
Yes.
just by yourself. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that if they do only inspiration, that they can actually run a sustainable business, and
Unsustainable.
you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it. And so you there within all of that is compromise, organization, picking your spots, looking for the right business partners, because that's really what it is. Find a planner that lets you do what you want to do. Oh, it's art. Well, kind of. It's business.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. This is not a hobby.
No.
we have been doing this for a long time. And don't get me wrong, like there are things that we're still discovering and changing, and things that we think now that we're doing right, maybe in a couple of years will be what we were thinking. So we continue that evolution and that discovery, which is super fun. But yeah, like you have to make sure that your company is safe and is sustainable, because that's the responsible thing to do with all the people that work with you, because it's not just us. We have a team. So we have to be responsible financially for that team and make it sustainable.
I was wondering, like, just thinking through the idea of, like, because you guys did a great job laying out, like, hey, we came in the States, we played it a little bit safe, we looked for the opportunities, I found a pivot point, I took that pivot point, and I grabbed it, and I see it so much. Like, I told Jared all the time with, like, Huxley Film, I'm like, I don't got the wedding yet. Like, I love the weddings we've shot. The couples are amazing. I think we've done good work. I haven't done the one that is the one,
How would you know that is the one?
Yeah.
because it would be what's in my mind. Like, when I see it, I'll know it. And I think artists know. Like,
Yeah.
when you have the right couple, you have the right experience, and you're like, full on gas at all expenses. I will lose money on this one. I will do everything possible to make this. This is my shot. And I think that is such a unique instinct.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
some people have and some people don't have. And as for all the things we talk about in the creative industry, I think knowing when you have something special, the instinct to know and to put it all on the line for that one thing, versus when you don't. The amount of people who are putting it all on the line, and I'm like, this isn't the wedding.
Yeah.
Just take the paycheck, go home, don't make any waves, make people happy, try to find a time to do it. But, like, how do you guys feel about, like, the compromises needed, but also how do you know when you're like, because I'm assuming you guys work with couples that are kind of like, they're not wanting to go all the way.
And that's fine.
And it is fine, totally.
So I come from a Montessori education kind of thing. And we say that we follow the child. And this is exactly the same with weddings and couples. We follow them as far as they want to go. Like, if we see potential and they want to go further, we will be there.
How do you know? Like, when what are the
Conversations.
cues you're looking for when you're like, this is go for it time. Like, we're going to put it all on the line.
And you see it in their body language. Like, when you read them, like, we don't have phone conversations. Like, we have, like, a video. And then when we shoot, like, we talk about crazy ideas, what our influences are, like, what is their favorite music, what are things that they like to do. It's like a relationship. So it's a two-way street. So when we get feedback, then we are more excited and more in. And if they're not there, that's fine. They're going to get, like, an amazing film.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. But it's just as much as they give us to work with, we're going to be there.
I will say that no matter how many times you have to do it, keep trying. And you have to die trying. You know, it's that putting yourself in the situation again. And
Because you will be surprised, too. Couples that you might not, like, think they will be, like, as interesting or whatever, they can end up giving you lots of content.
what's the
because
worst that
they're
can happen?
Well,
A
I think
reaction?
it always comes down to being present too, like creatively present, like where you are. It's like, because you could go to a wedding, you're like, like it's just kind of average. And then suddenly certain light hits
Yeah.
and you're like, this is it.
Yeah.
This session right here, like, I might not make the film I was thinking I'm going to make, but
Right.
I'm going to do something with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Moments.
And I think, like, everything comes down to, you guys talked a lot about building a creative vocabulary, building a palette, like
Yeah.
for what is good,
Yes.
like having good taste.
And that gives you only you get there with experience, like getting all these weddings that were not your favorite, but then something happened and you capture
all
it,
count.
and then you get re-inspired. And having that muscle, you're training a muscle. So everything that you build, like that discipline that you talked about, your work ethic, having the eye just to have that sensitivity when something comes in, you're prepared. You know what I mean? So all that leads you to that momentum. When you get those weddings, you are full in and you can create exactly what you have in mind, because then you can have an expectation of having something to create in your mind, but then when the opportunity comes, you didn't exercise that muscle and you don't know how to make
ready.
things happen.
You're
You're
not
not
ready.
ready. So everything has to come into place.
Yeah, I want to put as an example a wedding we shot last year where I had huge expectations about what I wanted to do with this wedding with the couple, and the moment wasn't.
It wasn't right.
No, and the schedule was so tight. It only allowed us to do like 5 minutes session with the couple, which of course was more focused on the photographer part because it's like the safest.
So
And
like every wedding I shoot.
Right. But then there was a point during the reception where the bride was going to change into her second outfit and come back to the reception room. And I just followed them just to see what I could get. And just on that walk from point A to B and B to A again, I had gold. It was like I had my assistant with the light. It was like nothing was like meant to be like that, but it just happened because I was putting again myself in the situation. I was like, okay, let's do this, whatever we can get.
Well, the amount of filmmakers I see complaining about stupid crap, like I'm not eating, stupid crap, that I'm like, that's what you were focused on? Mm-hmm. When you were at the event, you were focused on that? You're not focused on shooting as good as you can? Not just killing it, literally just like, who cares? Like focus on, like, if you want to be the best, you got to show up ready to work and ready to kill it. And like a lot of people would be like, oh, the bride's going upstairs, I can sit down.
No.
Right?
I had my second shooter covering dances or whatever was
go
going
up
on.
and figure this
Hey,
out.
Take turns.
yeah.
Yeah, and
I didn't eat at that wedding actually.
and it like
Like, that's what it is.
I will eat when I eat.
Because what will kill you is if you walk away without the best possible.
Right.
That's what
Exactly.
if you're a real artist, what you can't live with is not doing your best.
Yes.
But there are things like I can see the other side too. Like I would make sure that there is a time for us to take care of ourselves too. So because
Totally.
how can you be creative if you are hungry? Or you know what I mean?
Just gonna bring them
Like
power
you can
bars.
you can
Yeah, that's what I
push
do.
through it. Yeah. But at some point, like it's again, like how can we make this sustainable and as fun as possible? You know, all the time.
Well, I would say
so I would just
the amount of
budget the time to do that.
the amount of weddings that you're shooting where it's worth the sacrifice
Oh yeah.
is not often. But you got to know. That's where we're like knowing when
Right,
there's an
right.
opportunity to make something special.
That's why I was
and when
willing
you
to
can
do
break
that.
the mold
Yeah.
a little bit. And like especially like we just did a wedding. We just posted it a month ago. It was this big, huge event. And there was all this. We had a shoot where we were going to do like a tripod and have 3 different dress changes and like and the thing like
Oh.
all these cool ideas. None of them. They did none of the good ideas.
Okay.
We got no time with them. They wouldn't go outside, wouldn't do anything. And so like it's jazz. And that's what like I'm sitting there going, I sit with the pre-production meeting. I say, here's the things I want to do. Here's the 3 ideas. They're probably going to put a kibosh on all 3. I'm in the consult with this couple. I know what they're going to do. She's going to say, I don't want to leave. I want to stay here. I don't want to do this. I want to do this. And I'm like, so here's the film we're going to make if we do everything we want. Here's all the backup plans.
Okay.
Okay.
Right? And if it doesn't work out, this is what we're shooting. And like the film will become X. It's going to be a handheld film. And we're going to and then I'm like midday, I'm telling the team like, they're going to bail. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're going to bail here. This is what we're doing. We're going to go like you have to like, have a strong vision, but also know it's not going to work and be willing
Yeah.
to come up with another plan
Yes.
to still make it fantastic. Now, is that film exactly what I wanted? No. It would have been better if we were able to do what I really wanted
Right.
to do. It's still great.
Yeah.
I still got a bunch of inquiries from it. The couple loved it. The planner loved it. The industry in our area loved it. It was still one of the better films that's come out of the
Nice.
city in
You see?
a long time. It's not as good as I wanted, but it's still great. And I think when you look at, most people don't think like us in terms of like dreams about what this could look like. I think a lot of filmmakers would be well served to kind of think ahead of time and have a vision.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so I would love to kind of end with saying, like, you know, you have this background, both of you, in creativity and working. Like, you can't show up for a fashion shoot and not know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Like, it's just, you're making a product, you're working, you're promoting something. There's like,
Yeah.
it's a totally different thing. How can people develop vision for their weddings? Like, knowing, like, not just showing up and reacting, but showing up, maybe not even directing anyone, but they're directing themselves. They're capturing things with intentionality. They have an idea of what they want to make. What do you say to someone who's like, I just show up and react. I don't have a vision for the wedding day. I don't know
That's
how
a
I'm going to
great
edit it.
question.
I don't know what I'm going to be thinking about. Like, I'll talk to the couple on the phone and I'm like, okay, this is a Latin couple, but they don't want to be perceived as a Latin couple. So they don't want Latin music. They gave me a list of music and it was a bunch of country music. So I'm not going to like, but this person was like, oh, reggaeton is important to us. Okay. How am I going to shoot a film with reggaeton? I'm not going to stand like this. I'm going to,
Right.
right? So I'm pre-editing the film before I show up. And that's what you're doing too. That's what all the great filmmakers are doing is they're listening, they're coming in with a game plan, they're shooting for their edit.
Right.
Right.
vision.
I think for vision is linked to the inspiration that the couple gives you. Like, I think it's it's like a cycle. One thing can, like, it's more likely that you will be frustrated if you just show up with your vision, because we are in real life events. So nothing is scripted. There is like an intention with a timeline and maybe, but you have to build that flexibility, that muscle
Yeah.
to take you to tell the story that is presented,
Yeah.
not the story that is just in your head. You know
But
what I mean?
also, I will say before, like even before you have a meeting with a couple, like the vision starts with you doing the work of just showing up, like
getting interested,
getting
just asking
interested,
good questions.
being curious, you know, being willing to be uncomfortable with getting new things in your head, you know, because in order for a new vision to emerge, you have to, you know, like be a little bit uncomfortable, like and like in a position of how do I say, like I have the words in Spanish in my head, but the fact of not being okay with something that you feel like can be done better, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just being willing to go a little bit further. Like,
Well, improvisation is really at the heart of art.
yes.
Yeah.
Is like improvisation. Like, I'm sculpting this sculpture and I hit too hard, I break the thing's nose off. Okay, now it's now it's a skeleton. Like
But-
Yeah.
whatever it is you're making, like, you got to know. Like, I heard a person say, a great artist makes tons of mistakes but never lets you know they made the mistakes.
Because that's the thing.
They
Artists,
build the mistake into the art.
Right.
sometimes
right.
we're too much in our heads.
Yes.
Like the couple that you were shooting the wedding that didn't end up the way you wanted, or the best case scenario, have no idea what was in your head.
They did, 'cause I told them,
loved it.
but
Yeah, I mean, but they,
they
don't
just didn't
have.
care.
Right.
Right.
It was fine,
And
and
that's fine.
that's fine.
That's
Yeah.
all. That's
That-
all.
But that's
that
the thing.
is-
You have to fail many times, and we failed, and that's the thing. You don't
Well,
see
that's
the
why
failure.
I have the backup plans. Like, and that's why you as an artist, like, if you don't have intention, you don't know when you're gonna have that you said, how do you know when you have that wedding?
Right,
It's
right.
like when my intention matches my opportunity.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's like when the thing I want to do is possible,
Exactly.
fully possible,
Yeah,
which is very rare.
Yeah.
It is very rare, and
People
it's
say it's luck.
and it's just in that moment that you are, because as you continue to evolve, then there is going to be another opportunity
Yeah,
where
exactly.
you took that vision further.
You know, when you like, if you don't have a vision for what you're trying to make, you don't know when you can put it all on the line.
Right.
And if you know what you like, who you are, and you have like a self knowledge of this is my best self, this is my best art. Like you're getting the best Eugene when I can do X. Now I can still make a great film, and I'm still grateful
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
opportunity. And I don't resent any couples for not letting me do whatever I want to do.
Right.
Exactly, because it's not about us anyways.
No, not
It's
at all.
not.
And I always tell people it's like a great wedding filmmaker is someone who can make something pure and true and interesting out of any wedding.
Yes.
So the goal is not to mold the day to my will.
No.
It's to react to what's happening. And so you guys are doing the same thing, but every so often because they say show what you want to grow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're showing what you want to grow. You're showing work, like there's the marketing
Right,
side.
right.
You're showing content that helps you fetch the couples, and you're getting more of them.
Yeah.
You get more of them. And I think you got to be patient though. So I love that you guys talked about your journey, because I think that will inspire someone. They'll listen to this and they'll go like, well, it took them, 4 years of grinding and slowly implementing what they really wanted to be doing
Yeah.
to find like a breakthrough moment. A couple
Yeah.
films, I think, that kind of like created demand
Right.
for the style.
Right.
Yeah. But the thing is that it's only the tip of the iceberg. You know, it's
That's what
it's,
people see. Like that's
Yeah.
the illusion that marketing creates.
Yeah.
Like
But
what is
we've been like keep failing and trying again like for 15 years almost.
and not
you
so
know?
long ago, like we were in one of the lowest moments in our lives.
Yeah, like
Like
dark stuff because of and I think those kind of things has to happen at some point in your life to kind of like, okay, I have to do something,
yeah,
like
it's a wake up call.
it's a wake up call, and we're grateful that happened to us, but it's all the things that led to that moment, and we don't see this as the ending point. This is just part of the process. We have to keep growing and evolving. And like I will put an example. This wedding I shot this weekend at the same venue, I could have played it safe and shot it the same way I shot that other wedding. But there was a unique aspect that I wanted to, implement, because this is a different people. At the end of the day,
It's a different story, and you want to honor
It-
that.
Shoot there 14 times and try to make it unique.
well, you're right.
Well, every story is different. That's when you have your eyes peeled to and absorb what is going on.
Yeah.
Like there is always going to be something different. And I think the industry, it's very easy to get burned out because you see everything like happening.
Yeah.
Well,
so
what is a
many
different
times.
film too? Like
Yeah.
what makes like, is it different?
I mean,
is it not different just because you have some of the same settings? I don't think that's true. Like there's only so
no.
many places to shoot at a place. What makes the film, I tell my team all the time, I'm like, don't worry so much about shooting unique shots.
No, it's not about
Shoot
shots.
people.
yeah.
Exactly. That's what's
And-
gonna
and-
make
and
it
listen,
different.
Listen, be sensitive. Like when vows are happening or speeches are happening, grab elements. What's unique about this. And you're gonna use it anyway. And that's gonna make that film unique, because that person wasn't talking about that couple in another wedding you shot at the same venue weeks ago. There's always gonna be a unique aspect.
And that's something that our couples ask us, like, how are you gonna make my film? How is it gonna look like? Because every video is so different from one another. And I said, well, because every couple is different. So we don't have wedding videos that are one film exact to another. And I think that's what we chose to do. I think it's
Yeah.
fine when
Do you guys find that exhausting?
It is creatively taxing.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
And that's why we had to cap, limit capacity to a certain amount of weddings a year, because that's the approach we wanted to give.
Would you guys also consider like curating your locations and things like that so that you had more variety on the year, or would you?
Yeah, it all depends on they're choosing us and we're also choosing them. So that's how they can get the best out of us.
Yeah.
So we're limiting that capacity, but also how does that look like as a sustainable business? How do we grow sideways so we don't depend so much on films? So that's something that we had to reinvent ourselves many times so that we don't sacrifice our business.
Well, any market naturally abhors variances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the market wants every predictability.
Yeah.
Like if you go to McDonald's, like they don't want to get a cheeseburger and be like, I made my own spin on the cheeseburger. It's like, what the heck is this? This isn't a cheeseburger. Like that's as a artist gross and upsetting to know that like you would be better off making the same old thing from some perspective.
And there is market for that, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But
It works.
I think a lot of people want to make something unique. And I always tell people, hey, if you want to be in that space where people are competing for your unique vision, you better be freaking good. Don't just be weird. If you're going to just be meh,
Yeah.
then be boring.
Yeah.
Because you'll make a lot more money. But if you have the guts to try to do the Drakes or Sculpting with Time or a lot of people in the industry who are doing a little more edgy, you better be good.
Yeah.
You're competing for a small group of people,
Right.
and they can probably afford the Drakes.
Yeah.
They can
That's
afford, and so you better be as good as the Drakes if you want to push that. And it's like, I don't have any answers here. It's a podcast. We're not here to tell you how to get to that place. I will say, the best artists actually have developed a palette for what is good art. And what is unique and interesting. And it doesn't mean that it's like, there's no like uniform concept of what that is. We might all pick different music or different things we're interested in, but it's like, you need to have your own tastes and they need to be strong. You need to have a strong vision of what you like.
Speak from the inside.
Yes.
Just not like whatever you see around.
And how do you get there? Just by trying, failing, and just be adventurous and knowing that it's not going to be the film, but it's something that is helping you to get there. So don't be afraid to try those things because it's not going to give you money, because you can still do the regular traditional wedding films while you build the muscle to do the other kind of
for
stuff.
the meal, one for the real. That's what we always say.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And every single person in the industry who's killing it bought time by making content that would sell
Yeah.
until they found in the right couples, the right experiences, the right events.
A
that
lot of
led them-
sacrifices.
A lot of sacrifices. And
Yeah.
so I would encourage you, don't give up. If you're listening to this and you're trying to do something a little different, or maybe you don't even know what you're trying to make yet, you're creatively a little uninspired, you're bored, definitely don't just go copy the Drakes or Bottle Brush or any of these people. Like, they're great, they're interesting, definitely take inspiration, but also know that, like, you also have to, people don't like it when I say this, but you got to pay your dues in any industry. Like, you have to be proven to be, the first thing is, I'm a reliable partner. Second thing, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like,
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing that I will say, that it's important to know the rules in order to like the rules.
Make
You
it
know?
up.
yeah, you got to know, like, I'm showing up with this X planner and it's their show or not. And like, kind of,
Yeah,
like, what are we doing here? And-
Lots of social skills.
yes. And I'm ADHD. I don't have good social skills, like, naturally.
Okay.
Like, for me, it's very hard. The wedding industry is not, like, people like me aren't the normal person in the wedding industry. Abrasive, strong, non-compromising, somewhat rude. I'm not like a person who's like, I see the people around me and I have a very strong sense of, I'm not like them. I don't fit in. You can still do it.
Oh yeah.
I do it.
Absolutely.
I do it. I figure out how to be myself in the space.
You don't
Well,
let that stop you. You know.
No, without, and I pay prices still for not being.
We all
like-
do.
Okay.
We all do.
Yep, everybody does, but you don't give up, don't quit, but also know like you can say, "Oh, I'm an introvert. I'll
Yeah.
never be able to do stand out."
Yeah.
Well, no, you are going to have struggles because you're an introvert.
Yeah.
It's harder, but you can do it.
And being an introvert has its own sets of superpowers. I'm not super introverted person, and I see the value when we
Oh, yeah.
both come into
Totally.
this place.
So what do you guys want to like? We're kind of closing out, but I think it's important for you guys to like. What is next? Like, what would be your like for you guys if as filmmakers? What do you want to be making?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we're still discovering that ourselves. We are trying to push, harder and keep disrupting. That's kind of our motto.
So like an all nude wedding film. Is that,
Maybe.
I mean, we're shooting an elopement this week in Oregon, where there's some things a little bit different happening.
oh, nice.
And then
Yeah.
it's gonna come with like a rebranding from us. You know
Yeah.
what I told you, that we did something that it was uncomfortable, but it was very intentional for us to attract more adventurous
Yeah.
couples. And
Yeah. I mean, we're super excited of what's coming. We don't know what's going to be the result, but we're just going to, put ourselves there.
I'm still stinging from you guys beating us in love stories. So,
No hard feelings, bro.
yeah,
I mean, it's...
I don't
so
have that.
subjective.
I don't have that bride. I mean, our bride was pretty cool, but your bride might have been cooler. I'm not sure. She had better dance moves. So, really appreciate you guys coming on. Always appreciate the vibe you guys bring and just the energy you bring to the industry. If you want to check out their work, where can people find you guys?
Yeah, we are on Instagram as With the Drakes, as same as on the website, With the Drakes or We're the Drakes. And I mean, that's pretty much where you can find most of our stuff. We're trying to, give a little bit of fun, love, and respect out there for all the people so they can feel comfortable with us. But yeah, I mean...
Yeah, we want to tell those untold stories. Like, we're thinking about this idea of telling, like, it's really easy to tell the story when love begins and with all hopes and dreams. But how about, like, going to that end and telling stories of success and hardships and whatever of all people that are, I don't know, out there wanting.
Going with their own journey,
Legacy art,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? It's like, can you imagine if you had a video of your granddad?
Oh my God. I mean, this is what this is becoming,
Yeah.
right?
That's
In the
the-
next few years, this is a message,
It's family. It's like,
It's an heirloom, it's
Yeah.
a keepsake that you pass from generation to generation.
that's what we always say. And so that's our values here on this show is like wedding filmmaking is real filmmaking. Wedding filmmaking is art and it's real storytelling. And
Like you said, more like not something more so much about like a wedding film, but more like a marriage film, like
family
Or
creation.
Actually-
love. It doesn't have to be about a marriage. It can be about
a
so much
self-love,
more.
Yeah, like even like individuals
Well,
or
it's
whatever.
the genesis of a family.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like the day is just a representative
It's a chapter.
celebration, but and it's hard to do that. You can't always do that. I think we're all striving to tell that bigger story.
right.
And
yeah.
if you're trying to make significant work, you're all striving to, like, how can I convince this person to let me go deeper, and how do we make that more meaningful to people, and that's what they want. That they're not just like, hey, come and cover my event. Very rarely is someone saying
Yeah.
to most filmmakers, tell my story.
Yeah.
So people like you, I think, are pushing industry forward in that way. Hopefully we get a little blowback on our end
Thank
of
you.
people
I mean,
coming
just
by.
ask. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, I'll
I've
just say
learned
to the
that you
planner
can-
who called me and said, can you work this event for me? And then they just send me 5 contracts. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it happens right now in the industry.
Yeah.
Is like,
That's a reality.
it's,
Yes, a reality.
I have no problem with that because it's easy money. But I will say, like, at the core of who I am, and hopefully a lot of us, is like, we'll take that. But man, we really want to tell bigger stories. And sometimes we might have to figure out how to tell that story in that context.
Right.
Right.
And how can you do that?
Yeah.
How can you do that? I think there's so much more to do in this industry. There's so
Yeah.
much more storytelling techniques to be explored.
Yeah.
And it's exciting.
Yes,
I think
it is.
people like you are giving us more. You're taking risks, so we don't have to. So we're grateful for that, and grateful for you guys coming on the show. And like I was saying, go check out their work. Don't just copy it, but also take inspiration and figure yourself out if
Yeah.
you're listening to this.
Everybody has a voice. And
Yeah.
that's very unique and beautiful.
Yeah, figure out what you want to make. Make sure it's a little bit risky.
Yeah.
Don't.
And if you want to copy us, we can give you the recipe. But it's not just going to be you. You can talk to us. We will tell you how to do those things.
Yeah.
Just tell us and we can have a conversation. We can collaborate. We fully believe in collaboration.
Yeah.
But yeah, just keep it genuine.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny, like you guys, I know the people you know,
Yeah.
and I can see the influences they've had on you.
Right.
Right. And so the same as me, the same as all of us. So if you're like,
Totally
oh, the
fine.
Drakes are so unique, I'm like, well, kind of, but they're like,
We're
they're being
all-
influenced by Bottle Brush. They're being influenced
Yeah.
by
Exactly.
like all these. We're all, there's a
It's-
lot more synergy, I think, than people realize.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
and we're
totally.
not that many of us out there.
Not really.
So the more we collaborate, I
Yeah,
think, the
we believe
better.
that in art, well, and this is something I've learned in like my whole career of creating. It's that there's not such a thing as a competition, but more a collaboration, because everybody has their own voice, because nobody lived the same experiences you lived, and that's something that is going to make you unique no matter what.
Yep.
Even if you try to not.
Even in competition, there are filmmakers who beat me for jobs, and
Yeah.
I'm like, why are they resonating? What is about their storytelling that's connecting with people? Now, sometimes I look, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't
And
want
there are
that
many-
couple. I don't want that experience.
Right.
But other times I watch it and I'm like, that person's good. Like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting the way that they're doing that. That's interesting that they're connecting with that. And so, even in the sense of like, yeah, it's business. There's competition in business, but in art, we're all just trying to learn to tell stories better.
Yes.
And so I think that is why it's important to watch wedding films sometimes. And if you want to watch wedding films, every Thursday we do live film critiques. Head over to YouTube, watch live film critiques. It's just my opinion. It's just Bobby's opinion. It's not everyone's opinion. But you get to watch some other filmmakers and you can learn maybe from their mistakes, maybe from their successes. But we want to learn collaboratively. Check us out on YouTube. We are, probably the largest free resource for wedding filmmakers. Our group, our goal is to connect you to authentic artists, but also real business resources, which is what we try to do on this show. Definitely check it all out. And of course, means a lot to us if you give us a review, give us 5 stars, let people know this show is meaningful to you. And of course, go check out the Drakes, follow them on Instagram, go check out their work. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Jason.
much.
It was amazing.
Bye, guys.